Trump also entertained Netanyahu. So at first, it was breaking news that, yes, Netanyahu did visit with Trump and he had a backdoor meeting, but Trump canceled the press conference. But apparently, they did end up having a press conference. Trump did take questions, but it was more so on Iran and, of course, the tariffs.
You notice how difficult it was before to get anybody to sit down at the table to negotiate. See how quickly it happens now?
Right.
Amazing.
I think if the talks aren't successful with Iran, I think Iran is going to be in great danger. And I hate to say it, great danger, because they can't have a nuclear weapon.
So is that a yes?
You know, it's not a complicated formula. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's all there is.
So
You can't have it.
ready?
Right now, we have countries that have nuclear power that shouldn't have it. But I'm sure we'll be able to negotiate out of that, too, as part of this later on down the line. But Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the talks aren't successful, I actually think it'll be a very bad day for Iran if that's the case. Yeah.
By the way, what's wrong with Iran having nuclear weapons when it comes to ethics? Everybody else has them. Well, it's not in our best interest that they have them. So what goes on? Well, coercive authority. We have the power to coerce Iran in the circumstances it finds itself in right now. So we say, hey, don't like it, you're going to have to deal with the consequences. And I don't think you're going to like that. And plus, we're not like before, we'll take you out. We have the ability, and you know it. So you counted on other people forbearing on the options that they had. We won't.
Mm-hmm.
We're having direct talks with Iran. And they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it. So we're going to see if we can avoid it. But it's getting to be very dangerous territory. And hopefully those talks will be successful. And I think it would be in Iran's best interest if they are successful. We hope that's going to happen.
You know what?
Netanyahu's been told, hey, don't mess with this.
Right.
He ain't playing.
And I don't like him. I really don't like Netanyahu at all.
Netanyahu is interesting. He's an atheist. He advertises that. He's of the Jewish culture, but he's an atheist. So he is an acknowledged Zionist. And he's not nice when it comes to imposing the will of his country on the people that surround him. And that's caused a lot of problems that need to be ameliorated. So Trump seems to have his ear. Trump seems to have gotten a lot of attention this morning when he said there won't be a press conference. You flew all the way over here, but hey, if you're not going to make some concessions and agree to go with the flow, there it is.
Right. And Trump did propose for U.S. control of Gaza, calling it Freedom Zone. So during the meeting with Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Trump referred to the Gaza Strip as an incredible piece of important real estate. He suggested that the United States could be involved in controlling and owning the area, proposing the establishment of a freedom zone after relocating Palestinians to different countries. Trump's comment have sparked a range of reaction, with some interpreting his statements as endorsing ethnic cleansing.
I wouldn't say ethnic cleansing. Ethnic cleansing is what happened in Exodus when all of those tribes got exterminated down to the last man, woman, and child. by somebody's getting back to the promised land. That's ethnic cleansing. That's what happened.
Wasn't that what Netanyahu was doing to the innocent God people?
Exactly. In other words, ethnic cleansing is killing. It's not deporting. It's not relocating. It's killing.
Well, maybe it's the a sophisticated way of ethnic cleansing.
It's not a sophisticated way of
I'm trying to think of a better word. So, right,
it's relocation.
Yeah, a new term.
If you want to hear what it is, it's what happened with the Trail of Tears with that SOB Andrew Jackson when he wound up causing the death of so many Native Americans by relocating them from where they were found to reservations further out west. I had some direct ancestors that died on that so-called Trail of Tears, and I don't like the thought of it.
Right. What I was going to say, let me play this clip here.
And we're not going to stand for it.
Mr. President, you've said, Mr. President, who's going to represent the U.S. in the talks with Iran?
Two questions. Do you expect any of these deals to be made before April 9th? And secondly, there have been some mixed messages from your administration. You're talking about negotiations, and yet others in your administration are saying that these tariffs are actually permanent. What is that? What's actually going on?
They can both be true. There can be permanent tariffs, and there can also be negotiations, because there are things that we need beyond tariffs. We need open borders. You know, we almost had a deal with China where we're going to open up China. It was almost done. Some of you remember it during my first term, and it was very disappointing. We ended up making a great deal. $50 billion worth of product was sold. $50 billion. You'd like that in Israel. And I made that deal, but it wasn't the deal that I wanted. It was the deal that I wanted was that, plus they were going to open up China so that our companies could go into China and compete with other countries and China for for a large number of people. And at the very end, that deal was terminated, and we went to a piece of the deal. And so there are a lot of things outside of tariffs, but tariffs are very important. But there are a lot of things like opening up countries that were totally closed. China's essentially a closed country. In fact, it is a closed country. And what they do is they charge tariffs so that if you sell cars or if you sell anything, nobody's going to buy it because the price is out of control. But that's true with a lot of other countries also. So we're going to get fair deals and good deals with every country. And if we don't, we're going to have nothing to do with them. They're not going to be allowed to participate in the United States.
Oh, translation from Rome to recent, it's been about power, and we've had an enormous amount of power that's not been used. Well, economically, the dollar is still what is the valued currency in the world. Why is that? Because we've got Ohio-class nuclear ballistic submarines hiding under the Arctic ice caps. We've got a few LA-class attack boats, 2 Seafolk-class boats, and a bunch of Virginias coming online. And what's happening is that we hold the rest of the planet hostage. So it's time to expand that. It's like on a playground. You slap somebody around and said, okay, now you understand how things work. Do you want to deal with this or do you want to take it a little further?
Yeah.
The guy says, let's go further and bust the bully in the mouth, and he gets a bloody lip, then things stop, but nobody's going to go swing back if they feel they are overmatched. So that's the problem. We basically overmatch everybody except the People's Republic of China and Russia. So
it was a question asked during a press conference. Well, why haven't you put any tariffs on Russia? And he said, we're not doing business with Russia. So there's no tariffs for no reason for me to put tariffs on them because we're not doing business with them.
That's right. What we're doing, I can count on a lot of products that I had around the place made in Russia. We don't import them anymore.
Right.
Or allow them in.
So I want to play this clip here, just going back to the Gaza Strip when he's saying that he wanted to be a freedom zone. And he goes into what he's going to, how he's going to relocate the Palestinians.
Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate. And I think it's something that we would be involved in, but, having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place. It's what I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in, because they really don't. And when they have good living, real living, where Hamas and all of the problems they have, the level of death on the Gaza Strip is just incredible. And I've said it. I don't understand why Israel ever gave it up. Israel owned it. It wasn't this man, so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well. There's no way. They took oceanfront property and they gave it to people for peace. How did that work out? Not good.
Is the immigration, sorry, Mr. President, is the immigration plan still on the agenda?
Which immigration?
From Gaza. From Gaza.
All it is a concept that I had that I think is good, and now people are copying it. Maybe you want to tell people are talking about the Trump plan. Gee, why don't we do that? Would you like to answer that question?
I think what the president talked about is, first of all, to give people a choice. Gazans were closed in, and every other place, including in arenas of battle. I mean, whether it's Ukraine or Syria or any other place, people could leave. Gaza was the only place where they locked them in. We didn't lock them in. They're locked in. And what is wrong with giving people a choice? Now, we've been talking, including over lunch, about some countries, I won't go into them right now, that are saying, if Gazans want to leave, we want to take them in. And I think this is the right thing to do. If you give, it's going to take years to rebuild Gaza. In the meantime, people can have an option. The president has a vision. Countries are responding to that vision. We're working on it. I hope we'll have good news for you.
You see how that sounds? You know what the reality is? That's not being said is, hey, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be there. We've financed you, provided your munitions, backed you up. Most of your Air Force or our personnel on furlough. Now, when we go in there and we talk to the press, this is going to be something you go along with because you think it's a good idea. We're not going to discuss how you came to think that way or express things that way. You might think of a Godfather situation, the old movie with Marlon Brando and Al Pacino, the Corleones. So,
but here's the thing, though, is the audacity of that man Netanyahu to say, they're closed in. We didn't close them in.
That's what he's told to say. He didn't come.
I know that, and this is why I'm just saying, the whole thing is basically horseshit. Because let me just say this, and I thought about it because Trump is saying the U.S. will control it. We're going to own it. So that's really telling Israel all that other shit that you guys were doing, you can no longer do. You're not going to control it, and you can't beat us. So I think the other side of the coin is, okay, if the U.S. controls the Gaza Strip properties, whatever, the U.S. can potentially control all of Israel.
Well, let's try this one. Russia and China have been pulling for years for a dual state. Israel has been trying to keep one state. The U.S. just came up with a third alternative. You keep your state and we'll control this particular troublesome strip. That ends the deal. No dual state where one of them can be subject to the control of Russia and China. and we keep Israel. Israel stays where it is, and we'll control the strip because we will create the strip, run the strip, and displace the troublesome population to those locations that we negotiate to take them. So
I mean, I have a
kind
problem
of
with
like
it
old
as well.
time power pot of politics.
Yeah, well, I totally disagree with that plan. First of all, I don't like what happened in Gaza. I don't like the history on how Gaza became to be that little strip, and I definitely don't like the freedom zone of Gaza.
Why do
Now,
you think it became
but this
that strip?
wait, but this is where we're at today. So I don't
No,
like.
why? How do you think it? See, when you start talking that, how did this come about?
It came about in many different facets. It's not just one thing.
There is one big thing that is there. The Israelis cannot afford to lose ever. If they do, they're wiped out. They'll go nuke everything if that happens. They'll play Masada. That was the fortress where the Roman legions came in and laid a short siege and quickly got control of the situation, and everybody there committed suicide in that fort. So that's what they're talking about doing. Well, since they have nukes, that might get a little nasty. So you don't want that to happen. So what goes on is you tell everybody this is what's going to happen. You can take credit for it or not, but this is the way. And now the reason you have that situation is because the Arab side, the Islamic side, was getting close to winning. They had a couple of opportunities to win. They didn't think they would be successful, and it scared the hell out of the Israelis. So things shifted, and the Israelis made some concessions to get time to rebuild, refortify, and make some arrangements so it would be harder for that to happen again. You have the Yom Kippur War. You have another thing or two going on over there. Israel and Egypt signed a peace treaty under Carter because Israel could no longer risk having a militarily developed Egypt come in against it. So now you have Egypt, Israel, and the Saudis all cooperating with the United States on keeping the Russians and Chinese out and keeping everybody else at least acting semi-civilized. So it's another one of those things of power. The Romans did it 2,000 years ago, and I don't know why our people today refuse to look back in history, because what's going on right now has gotten some antecedents from antiquity that are laid out because the Romans wrote about it. And it's pretty clear what they did, which is exactly what's going on here. It's called power politics. Stalin did it when things were under the influence of the Soviet Union. So did Khrushchev. And it is what it is, but people will try to be nice, nasty about it and don't want to admit it.
Yeah. All right. So,
in other words, translation, look, we can kick your behind. Would you like a sample, or do you want to take our word for it? And if you don't want to take our word for it, we will provide it in a fashion where we're just going behind the gym and nobody will see it. But when we come back, you'll be bruised and bleeding. Your head will be bloodied, maybe bowed or unbowed, but you'll know it. So if we want to go there, we can go there. Meanwhile, this is what's going to happen.